Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
Three very serious and important voices have risen this week, taking our focus back to India's 20 crore or approximately 20 crore Muslims and how they play out in our national politics. So, national interest this week, debates, issues arising out of this. But before I do that, my reminder to you after a very long time that you have to pay to subscribe. You cannot get good journalism for free. Journalism of the kind and the quality that we give you on the print, unhyphenated. Sometimes you get abused by one side, sometimes by the other. That does not come for free. If you think that you can get it for free, it cannot sustain itself. So you have a stake in free media, you have a stake in democracy, you have a stake in truth telling. Pay for your journalism. So buy a subscription to ThePrint.in. Right now, we are not behind a paywall, but soon we will be, and we will be producing a lot of subscribers-only content. So it is good to get locked in as early as possible. Please do subscribe. And if you have subscribed already, renew your subscription. Please do that. You have to keep good journalism going. Having said that, back to the theme for this week. So of the three key voices, we give precedence to Supreme Court of India simply because an institution is always above individuals, and also it's an institution like the Supreme Court of India. So a bench led by none else than Chief Justice N.V. Ramana and including Justice Suryakant and A.S. Bopana, while talking about Tablighi Jamaat cases, they actually censured a section of the media. And they said a section of the media had carried out coverage that was communally loaded, and this has the potential of giving India a bad name. So we will only say this much, that your lordships, you made a good point, a very important point, but respectfully, you are behind the curve because India has already been given a bad name, not just by the coverage of the Tablighi issue or by painting the Tablighis as being guilty for spreading the virus all over the country, but also with a lot of the other stuff that is being said in the media, social media and mainstream media about India's minorities, especially the Muslims. Second was a recorded statement by actor Naseeruddin Shah, who spoke in chaste Urdu, and he said that, look, the rise of the Taliban is a matter of concern for the entire world, right? And I'm really concerned by the fact that some sections of Indian Muslims also seem to be celebrating it. And he uses the expression beasts more than once. He says, rise of the Taliban Veshis, the beasts. And he says, why should some Indian Muslims be celebrating it? And then he says, Indian Muslims have to ask, what do we want in our faith? Do we want reform? Do we want modernity? Or do we want to go back to the bestiality, Veshipana, he says, very strong words, of several centuries ago? And then he elaborates and he says, I'm an Indian Muslim. My relationship with Allah is defined by what Mirza Ghalib said, that my relationship with Allah is that of complete informality and no ritual. Behad betakalluf. So he raises a question for India's Muslims, and he says, please do not celebrate the Taliban's victory. These Taliban do not represent our Islam. And then he goes on to say that Indian Islam is different from Islam in the rest of the world. That's a very important and also controversial point. And he drew adverse reactions from both sides. He managed to trigger both sides with this statement. First of all, many on the Muslim side said that why are you taking this guilt upon yourself by demanding reform and modernization in Islam? You seem to be suggesting something is wrong with Islam. Why the hell are you doing it? This is wrong. Are you even a practicing Muslim? On the other hand, a lot of people of the Hindu right said that this is self-serving. All Muslims are the same because problem is with Islam. It is not with Taliban or other organizations or this organization or that organization. Nevertheless, he made that point and he caused a debate to happen. Third is Umar Abdullah, former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. He's been repeatedly needling the Modi government by asking, please tell us now, are the Taliban terrorists or not? So what he's doing is, he's playing political jiu-jitsu with the BJP. Because he's turning the tables on them. And he's saying, batao na, you've been calling them terrorists. Are they terrorists or not? No, the BJP is caught. If they call Taliban, if they persist with their Taliban equals terrorist line, then they are handing over Afghanistan to Pakistan, tank, chopper and rifle. As you may have figured, I'm trying to avoid the lock, stock and barrel cliche. So they hand over Afghanistan to Pakistan, tank, chopper and rifle. Also, they get India globally isolated, because you have a situation today where nobody in the world is calling the Taliban terrorists. Not America, not Britain, nobody in Europe, not Russia, not China, nobody in the Islamic world. So does India, not even Israel at this point. So does India want to be the only country in the world staying away from the pack and thereby getting completely isolated? Obviously, the BJP or its government are not doing it. And fourth, it raises questions for the BJP. What does the BJP do now? If BJP UP elections are coming up, if it carries on, Islam means terrorism, means ISIS, means Al-Qaeda, means Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, means Taliban line, that it's all the same, then it's very tempting, particularly with UP elections coming up. But if it carries on like this, it takes a big risk. And that big risk is with the rise of the Taliban and with that kind of euphoria that you might see in some very minute sections, this is a risk of getting some angry young Indian Muslims radicalized. Because when you get desperate, what do? So the BJP apparently, it seems to me, does weigh that risk. Let us see how it will proceed as UP elections come closer. Now, 4 questions arise from this. Number 1, where does the BJP go with its Muslim bashing discourse? Because as I mentioned, it carries the risk of having some young people radicalized in this environment. Second, what should the BJP government do to respond to this Talibanized geostrategic reality? Because if they accept the Taliban like the rest of the world has done, it looks like they are giving up a plank in their domestic politics. Number 3, what do the other parties do? Other parties like the Congress, other anti-BJP parties. So far, they've been quite overawed by the BJP, as we had discussed in a Cut the Clutter episode a couple of days ago. They've been sort of moderating their view of secularism, if such a thing is possible. They're trying to play good Hindus. They are trying to also distance themselves from the Muslims to the extent that don't want to be seen openly with the Muslims. Now, the reason they think they can do it is because they think that people are scared, Muslim voters are scared of the BJP, and by default, their votes will come to them. But they are also seeing that people like Asad Owaisi, Badruddin Ajmal are breaking through their flanks and getting some of that Muslim vote. So they have a dilemma. They also have to choose. The 4th question is the most important. That is the question for Indian Muslims. Indian Muslims, do they persist with the line that yes, the subcontinent's Islam is different? The line that, say, Nasiruddin Shah has spoken. Do they buy into the line that subcontinent's Islam is different? They know it's different, but do they buy into the line and start stating it? And do they continue saying it even if they are still demonized as being as feared or as fearsome as, say, the Taliban? Because one side will say all Islam is bad, problem is not with the Taliban, problem is with Islam. So should Indian Muslims carry the moral burden of having to constantly condemn the Taliban? If they do so, it amounts to admitting that there is a flaw in their faith or there is an aberration in their faith. If they don't do so, they can be painted as complicit. So that is a problem for them. Now, let's leave out the first 2 points. First 2 points are, what does the BJP do? Let's leave BJP's problems to the BJP. Maybe for another national interest in a few weeks at some point of time. So we are exploring the last 2 questions, question 3 and 4, a little bit more deeply, because these 2 are interlinked. That is, the other non-BJP parties, including the Congress and especially the Congress, and India's Muslims. Because traditionally, Indian Muslims have been relying on these parties to keep the BJP in check, but these parties have failed to do so, and now they also seem to be shy of being seen as being close to the BJP. Look at the Congress party. We mentioned this in our Cut Tak letter. It has just broken up with Badruddin Ajmal in Assam. It keeps sort of vacillating between reaching out to the Muslims and between disowning the Muslims publicly but still wants the Muslim vote. And we know that A.K. Antony committee in 2014, as he investigated the debacle in that election, he said that one of the things Congress suffered from was a too Muslim-friendly image. So Congress doesn't want to do it. But see what's happening elsewhere. You might say that Shivraj Singh Chauhan, a BJP leader, who earlier was seen to be quite Muslim-friendly, who was not shy of being seen with Muslims, he has stopped his traditional iftar now. He's also changed. Now you can say, all right, he's a BJP man, he's changed. But the odd BJP leader also, who reached out to the Muslims, has now gone away. But look at the other parties. Even in Delhi's political circles, the tradition of the iftars has now completely stopped. No party, no national party wants to be seen doing it, because then you are seen to be close to the Muslims and you don't want it because you think this alienates the Hindu voters. That's why you will find increasingly more and more opposition leaders do not even want to be seen at Muslim shrines, even Sufi shrines. That is the big change that's come about in Indian politics. And it is true that BJP and the RSS have now succeeded in not forcing at gunpoint, in forcing politically through sharp politics other so-called secular parties also to accept the key points in their ideology. What are these? Show me one major opposition party today that says that they will reverse Article 370 and other changes in Jammu and Kashmir, right? Tell me other constitutional changes in Jammu and Kashmir. Somebody might say we'll restore statehood, but nobody says that we will restore the special status. How many serious parties in India, anti-BJP parties, say that they will repeal CAA when they come to power? How many parties say that they will repeal the triple talaq law? Does any party which of any significance say that they will implement the Supreme Court order on allowing women into Sabrimala? All these are issues that are very close to Sangh Parivar, and these are all issues that all opposition now buys into, or at least is afraid of questioning the BJP on. So this is the saffronization of the opposition. That complicates life for these 20 crore Indian Muslims even more. This contributes to further alienation and anger among India's Muslims. This is not about the constitution or the secularism it guarantees. It's about our shared sense of belonging to a country which must not be allowed to fray, but which is fraying right now. Now, we had started this week's column by quoting the Chief Justice of India from his bench in the Supreme Court. So let me go back to him again. In one of his recent speeches, he said to his fellow judges, he said, all of us, the judiciary, has to also reflect and respect India's diversity, India's various faiths, ethnicities, etc., castes, etc., etc. And he also said that that's why the collegium all over the country, whether for Supreme Court or High Courts, have to reflect this diversity in their choices. But see, at the same time, the Supreme Court itself recommended 9 names of new judges to the Supreme Court of India. Now, this has 3 women, which is marvelous. This has OBCs, this is Dalit, but it has no Muslim. So the fact is that out of the 33 judge Supreme Court of India, there is only 1 Muslim. And that is somebody who's been continuing on from the past. So even a great institution like the Supreme Court has not been able to live up to its own promise and to its own sermon. That is where the picture in India has now become very different, particularly if you look at it as an Indian Muslim. Now, for just a minute, forget which political side you are on, who you voted for, who you will vote for. Just think like an Indian. Like a patriotic Indian, is it good for India to leave 20 crore of its people angry, alienated, feeling left out, feeling hopeless, losing faith in our system and our politics and our democracy? That is not what India needs. That is not what India needs at any point of time. Even if the Taliban had not risen and found global acceptance, but now even that has happened. So this is the time when we have to look at some of these issues as Indians first.